If you talk to pretty much any competent firearms trainer across the U.S., they'll tell you that for most people, the most dangerous thing you're ever going to do with a firearm is holster it. And on a related note, if you talk to anybody who's been a USPSA range officer or an IDPA safety officer for any length of time, they'll tell you that pretty much they can tell exactly what a person's going to be like just by watching them make ready. In other words, they can tell you exactly how safe someone's going to be with a gun and how competent they're going to be with their gun handling just by watching their make ready sequence. Here's why. Let me show you an example. So this person has been given the make ready command. Kind of makes you cringe looking at it, doesn't it? Or at least it should. The problem is I've seen every single one of those pieces during a make ready sequence at some point in time, and it doesn't have to be that way. So what does this tell us about their gun handling and their safety? Well, unfortunately it tells us a lot. Gun handling, first off the bat. Every time you draw your firearm, you should put it in your primary hand with a primary shooting grip with your finger safely in register at some place away from the trigger. And probably, given a choice, depending on if you can reach your fingers there, away from the trigger guard. There are people who do this sort of thing to give them a reference. The problem with this is you can see my fingers bent, and a surprise will cause me to do that sort of thing. If it's up here, that won't happen. We know that the way the gun is built, if we have it in our primary hand in a primary shooting grip with a gun register, I have the best positive control over this entire thing. As such, once you get that grip, leave it there. Don't switch hands to do various things here and there. Keep it in this hand. Sure, there are people who can competently switch from hand to hand, but those people who competently can do that also know that they're increasing their risk every time they do so. And so given a choice, they won't. Keep it in your primary hand. For people who say, well, I've got my start mag in this back pocket. Okay, don't. You have another pocket. Keep it there instead. Once you draw the gun, keep it in that primary grip until you are finished working with it, and then holster it from that primary grip. That will solve many of the problems that we just saw. So there's the first thing, primary grip. Second thing has to do with the holstering part of it. If I now have a loaded firearm in some fashion, holstering it in such a way to point it at myself or flag myself by sweeping across a part of my body, I don't want to do that, because at some point in time I'm probably going to screw up and put a hole in myself, and I don't really want to do that sort of thing. So when you're holstering, one, look at the holster, and two, make sure the holster is such that you can simply place the gun in it without having to do anything else to it. You should not have to hold it. You shouldn't have to adjust it. You should have to do nothing with respect to that. Yeah, I know, I just put it in my other hand. You should have to do nothing here other than put the gun in it. Do not set yourself up to make a mistake. Okay? Don't take the gun and point it to yourself trying to find the mouth of the holster. Don't put your hand here and then sweep across your own body while you're holstering. Look at it. If it is an issue, in other words, say you have it slightly behind here and you can't really see. Okay, use your thumb to find the holster, go upward until you reach it, shift in, and then holster. And you can do that too. There are numerous ways to do this safely, even if you cannot see it, by finding the holster with your thumb, sweeping up, and holstering. Don't use your hand to find it. Don't use the muzzle to poke around until you find an opening somewhere. Don't do any of those things. Okay? Get positive control of the gun. When you load it, keep that positive control. Make sure the mag is seated, and that's fine, but you don't have to like hit it 20 times. Put it in there and give it a pull. Does it come out? No, great, you're in good shape. Holster carefully and mindfully so you're not pointing the gun at yourself. One additional thing, when you are holstering, don't just hammer the gun into the holster. Okay? There's no reason to forcefully slam it down into the holster. And there's every reason not to. When you are holstering, you want to carefully and gently place it into the holster. If it's got some retention that's going to click in, that's fine, but you don't want to be in the habit of just hammering it down. There's a couple of reasons for this. One, and if you do USPSA or IDPA long enough, you'll run into somebody doing this. Someone will do this, shove down, hammer it so hard that a piece of their holster will break, or it's coming off their belt, or they missed it in the first place, and they literally just slam it into the ground. Not really a good thing. But the other thing is, if you are in the habit of hammering your gun into the holster, what happens sometimes if you have something in the way? There's something across the holster or in the holster. You're wearing a fleece and it has those cords on the end who are stuck in here, or you've got a shirt in there or something like that. You push this in there and just hammer it down, you don't know what you're pushing the gun into. And that sort of thing can and does happen if there's something caught in the holster. If you are gentle in putting it in, once you start feeling resistance, you stop and take a look at it to figure out what's going on. There's no reason to hammer the gun in the holster. If you're doing that, you should fix that habit quickly. All of those things, in terms of gun handling and safety, are incredibly important. And if you do them while you're doing your administrative gun handling during a make ready, hopefully you will also be doing them the rest of the time when you're handling the gun.